Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we are having some weird-ass technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen, simply because StreamYards decides to change up the game, and I didn't get the memo, which is very annoying. So, Fuzzy Belvedere is still loading in. Crispy Bomb is here. Fuzzy, if you can hear me, or you can. Oh, he's out. Yeah, it's been a morning, folks. But we're gonna give you an incredible, 90-ish minute show. I'm thinking maybe 3 topics. We have a lot to get into. There is some breaking news regarding Bethesda and what's happening with the Elder Scrolls. That is starting to come in from different publications like VGC. Okami_13 is reporting it as well. Thanks to Crispy Bomb and his keen eyes, because yeah, this morning I clocked in my 5 miles on the elliptical, and I took a Pilates class that whooped my ass. But you know something? I feel really, really good. And, well, you know what? The old man still has it. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out. Hopefully, you had an amazing gaming weekend. And listen, before we get any further, I did an internet boo-boo, and I said I turned 55, which I did. But that's not today or yesterday. That was September 25th. And why this has happened is I saw a bunch of people tweeting about their gaming rooms. Now, we're in a small apartment, so I don't technically have a man cave, but I have a couple of shelves dedicated, like Mrs. Boom does as well, to what we like, right? You know, she has her dragon, she has all her stuff. I have all of my, collectibles. So I took a picture of my amiibos, and I put, sideways it with a picture of me. And I said, hey, listen, F the haters. I just turned 55. So everyone thinks it's my birthday. So folks, please do not give me any super chats for the birthday. My birthday has passed already, September 25th. Let's bring Fuzzy Belvedere in here. And Fuzzy, before you freak out, you can close the vertical slice. There's a thing, button on the bottom of it. You see where it says show vertical or close vertical. You can close that out. It's something new that StreamYards is doing. We don't have you on screen, but can you hear us? This is very odd. All right. Well, we gotta.
Yeah, I can hear. I do apologize. My mic was muted.
Okay, so listen, don't worry about it. You get a picture up when you can. It's not that important. Get on, check your camera settings, so they might have changed everything. It's been a morning, ladies and gentlemen. But Crispy Bomb, first of all, brother, thank you so much for the keen eyes and dropping articles that I actually didn't see. And we're going to open up with it because, look, as you can see by the title, folks, Xbox Games Studios has become the best platform for first-party AAA developed RPGs, folks. And I don't even think there's a denial. I think that when you look at what they've done this year on RPGs, it's pretty impressive. And I'm not talking about Expedition 33 going into Game Pass. I'm talking about first-party RPGs. You got the Oblivion remake, you got Avowed, and you got the Outer Worlds 2, all banger RPGs. And we're going to get into what else they got cooking up. But Crispy, how you feeling, brother?
Great to be here. Just got out of work. Very, half tired, I would say, but I'm ready to roll. And yeah, I love RPGs, so we got great topics to talk about.
We do. We absolutely do. And let's bring Fuzzy, Crispy. Hold on a second. Well, you know what? We will get Fuzzy back in here in a second. Okay, now there he is. He's back on camera. Fuzzy Belvedere, how was your gaming weekend, kind sir?
It was pretty good. Been playing a lot of NASCAR 25, which you might be able to see in the background, and playing a good bit of Outer Worlds 2 as well. So it's been pretty busy. Oh, and back into Diablo 4 for a good bit. So okay. Starting the new season as well.
Nice. Well, listen, brother, great to have you on camera. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? We're going to rip the Band-Aid right off. We're already 10 minutes into the show, or give or take. Again, so apologies for somewhat of the technical difficulties that we had to open up the show. There's been some big changes to StreamYards. They never sent me the memo, which is a little bit annoying because, and if you notice, we had to get another stream because I deleted one of the streams Well, apparently now it comes not only in the portrait, but it comes in the phone size, and it counts one of each. It's just really weird. So, of course, apologies for the technical difficulties, but ladies and gentlemen, I think it's safe to say that if you are someone that is an RPG fan, and remember, this is not just pointed towards Xbox players, because most of the RPGs coming out of Xbox Game Studios will be going to other platforms. Now we know it's an automatic to go to Steam and other PC stores, like that's an automatic. But most of these games are third-party type of deliveries, meaning that if Fallout 3 remake is dropped, it's probably going to show up on Nintendo Switch 2, and it's definitely showing up on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro. But just taking a step back, Crispy, it really does mean a lot for Xbox as a platform to have this many RPGs loved by so many gamers. And look, I don't want to keep, circling the wagons and bringing it back to, oh no, they went third party. Folks, if it still bothers you, I'm not going to argue with you. I have moved on from it. I have accepted that Xbox is a third party publisher, but as an Xbot, which is what people call me, and that's fine. I don't get offended by names. I prefer the Xbox platform for a multitude of reasons, whether it be the Series X itself, the controller, my friends list, my achievements, quick resume, all of the things that make Xbox great or a great place to play is what I enjoy it for. If you are someone that are enjoying any of the RPGs that released this year on your PlayStation, that is awesome. Good for you. If you're enjoying it on Steam, even better. But Crispy, I think that, before we get into some of the specifics of like the Fallout 3 rumor, which we've been talking about a while, the Elder Scrolls 6, we got some news on that. We got some news on Avowed 2, as well as the Outer Worlds 2 DLC. Like, this is going to be a major, RPG conversation. But before we get into the particular games themselves, I just rattled off 4 monster-sized RPGs, and that's not counting Clockwork Revolution from inXile. And if you just think about who is under the banner of Xbox Game Studios, you have inXile, you got Bethesda, and you got Obsidian. And quite frankly, if I were to be a little pointed, and if I were to, let's say, put them in order of what I think they are, well, Obsidian is number 1. They released 3 games this year. And you know what, Bethesda, no slouches in RPGs, obviously. But for me, as a gamer, it's Obsidian, it's Bethesda, and it's inXile. And it's inXile because in third, because they haven't released their game yet, right? Clockwork Revolution could be next year. We keep thinking that's going to be one of the 6 first-party games released next year to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the platform, and that would be a big deal. But until that happens, some of their older RPGs are just not really for me. But let's talk about the best place that is doling out some of the best RPGs in gaming, meaning Xbox Game Studios. What are your thoughts on this, Crispy?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how many have come out recently. I played a decent amount of Avowed. See, my problem is, and Boom knows this very well, I'm such a completionist that I still haven't technically beaten Fallout 4. That's how crazy I am with this. Like I go like to the extreme, and it's kind of wild to have so many, especially come out in just 1 year, that it's almost an overload for someone like me. It's like, okay, I start it, I get to a certain point, and then I'm like, oh, there's another one. Okay, start it, get to a certain point. Okay, which one do I go back to? And then on top of it, I still have all these other games that I haven't played. It's becoming a little crazy to think of how gaming has gotten to us to this point with this many RPGs coming out. I mean, you look at Avowed having a second iteration already coming out that honestly tells you that, hey, that game was successful. They don't need to put out numbers if they're going to make another one, especially with the way they're acting now with the 30% and all these things. There's a reason for it. It did enough, and it engaged people enough to join Game Pass or sold on PlayStation or whatever it may be. So we really look at how they're approaching this. I sometimes worry that there's going to be, once again, like year after year, like 4 RPGs or 3. And it's like, I like to hear that, some of these studios are going to say, hey, like Outer Worlds 2, we're not doing any more Outer Worlds. Like, we like to see new things as well. So, in general, I think Xbox gamers, you guys, we got everything. And, everybody else is getting these fruits of the labor per se, and it's really just to have Oblivion remastered example on how successful that was. They're also going to remaster some of these games too, so we're eating good as far as RPGs. It's really become like almost too much.
Well, you know what? When you consider open world RPGs, like this year alone, I found, well, I destroyed Avowed. I spent a significant amount of time in it. I really was hoping for a new game plus, and that's what I kind of waited for, right? That is supposedly coming in December. We'll see. Because when it does happen, I'm probably going to run it again, and I'm going to do it a little bit different. My first playthrough, and I've said this story before, I played it in first person as a Magic user, and it was dope. But then I saw so many other people's, and I keep bringing up Jamie Moran because he likes third person gaming. So he played the game in third person, and I watched a lot of his, he consistently puts up clips. And watching his gameplay, I'm like, damn, that looks really good. Did I play this game all wrong? So when I was reviewing The Outer Worlds 2, my first 8 hours was in first person. And I'm like, I could have sworn they said that you can do third person. So I talked to a couple of people that were reviewing it because I actually didn't know. And they're like, yeah, just hold down the select button. And I'm like, oh, this is dope. So I started in first person, went to third person, and I did the up close Sony-esque look where it's kind of over the shoulder and the character is a bit, closer to the screen. I didn't like the one that gave me like a wide view. And I've been playing the game in 40 frames, which is dope because I think that having a 30, 40, and 60 frame choice is another phenomenal thing. But the problem with 3 massive open world games in 1 year is that something is going to get left behind. And for me, it was Oblivion. And Oblivion, still one of my favorite RPGs. I put a lot of time into it. And then, of course, it's just one of those games that's so massive that I had to put it down to do other things. And so I beat Avowed. I want to say maybe about a third through Oblivion, right? And I want to say maybe about 10 hours away from beating The Outer Worlds 2 for the second time. I just crossed the 5th day. I'm like 5 days, 5 hours in that game. And I know, again, I said this on Friday and I got the virtual tomatoes for it. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it again because I love Obsidian. I actually like this better than Starfield. I know people are going to start throwing the tomatoes. It's fine. I can take it, but I am very much enjoying it. And I'm actually a bit sad that I'm closer to the end, but we're going to get into it because there is some information that some DLC is happening. And we have another story about The Outer Worlds 3 that's not on the docket, but I have a thought and theory as to why that is. But before we get to any of that, Fuzzy Belvedere, let's talk about the RPG machine known as Xbox Game Studios. I mean, look, Clockwork Revolution looks dope, right? It looks like a BioShock with time travel. And I'm sure that game is going to hit because Exile, I'm sorry, they just don't make mistakes. When you look at someone like Bethesda, we're going to be getting something Starfield probably next year. It's going to come in the form of the DLC. We don't know what that is going to be. We don't know if there's a Starfield MMO in the works. We don't know if there is going to be a Starfield 2, or they're just going to continue to expand on this. But Bethesda's always going to be Bethesda, right? We know that they're working on the Elder Scrolls 6. Again, second half of the show, we're going to get into it about why and when that's expected. Fallout, they have a couple of irons in the stove, so we don't know what Fallout they're making. There is a rumor that popped up today that Fallout 3 is in fact going to be dropped. So there's a lot going on there. But my God, when you look at Obsidian and what they've done in 2025, you have to tip your hat. Maybe not every one of these games are for you, kind audience, and that's fine. Right? Maybe you're not into space RPGs, or maybe you're not into D&D type RPGs, or maybe you're not into giant spiders. And I'm not going to fight you on that. But you got to admit, every one of those games not only looks good, but they were all very highly rated. Let's get your thoughts on the RPG machine known as Xbox Games Studios.
Well, we haven't even gotten probably one of the most interesting ones just yet. Like Clockwork Revolution might drop next year. So I think that's going to be a new bar overall for the RPGs coming out of first party with Xbox. But they've been killing it, for the past couple of years between Obsidian and Bethesda themselves. But they have a lot more teams that are working on stuff, even though it may not be RPGs, but they're moving into more story-driven narrative type of things. And if you have RPG elements in it, much like we're going to see in Clockwork Revolution, as well as Outer Worlds 2, and more than likely Avowed 2, probably the next 5 years or so, and then possibly something in the Fallout universe also coming from Obsidian, while main Bethesda is working on a Fallout 5, more than likely. We kind of knew this when they were making their acquisitions, not only for Bethesda, but then they wound up picking up NXIL and Obsidian, pretty much the dream team for Fallout. And it seemed like everything else kind of expands out from there, even though each one of those groups have also made other RPGs since. It's definitely a team that are heavily weighted into the Western RPG genre. So they're hitting their stride, let's just say. We still got Elder Scrolls 6, which we'll see what type of timeline that is. I think we at least get to see an update of it next year. I still believe in, what was it, Elder Scrolls 6 in 26, but not the actual game coming out, but at least a updated reveal trailer kind of thing. But Starfield, well, for me, Starfield's premise, the platform as it is, where you can mod the crap out of that game, and even the base game in itself is an awesome game. The thing I do like about the Outer Worlds and Outer Worlds 2, just a smidge more, is just the level of detail in the stories and the options that you have, whether it's to be an a-hole or to be the good guy and everything in between. Not saying that you can't do that in Starfield. You definitely can. But it has a little bit of a different tone. Like with Starfield, it seems like it's more about exploration as opposed to, hunting down somebody and all the other side quests that, the Outer Worlds provides, kind of thing. But with Starfield, you're traveling towards this unknown thing, in the meantime doing some other exploration stuff. And then there are other side stories in there. So if Starfield had a little bit more of a mix in, like, let's say one of its expansions coming out that's similar to Outer Worlds, I think that would definitely solidify for all of the Starfield haters out there that it is the game of the generation. I know a lot of us already kind of believe that, for the fact that people 10 years from now will still be playing Starfield. But all in all, Xbox has picked some of the best teams in the RPG space. So I mean, the only ones left out there was CD Projekt Red, and then you have, for JRPGs, you have, Square Enix, and you also have Sega with some of their studios as well. But I would say overall, right now, just short of them picking up CD Projekt Red, they have the current, trifecta with Obsidian, Exile, and Bethesda. BioWare is not the team that they once were, although some of the old BioWare people are starting their own studio. So we'll see how Exodus lands, because I believe that was like a lot of the old BioWare Mass Effect crowd that are working on that new IP. But yeah, it's awesome. Some of us kind of saw it coming, kind of thing, with the acquisitions, but yeah, they're definitely a top-notch RPG, Western RPG studio or publisher right now, and it's only going to continue as you look at the big, I guess you could say, tent poles from Bethesda, and now the tent poles that are popping up from Obsidian and even in Exile, which I kind of wish at some point, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is something in the near future or distant future, we'll see, a remake of Fallout 1 and 2 handled by Exile, where you can go from the ARPG vision or viewpoint to kind of like a third person, similar to what mods were out there for, I don't know if a lot of people remember this game, called The Ascent. It was more of like a top-down twin stick shooter, kind of like in the vein of like an ARPG, layout as far as perspective, but people did mods for it so you could see it in first person and even in third person, like over the shoulder. And the level of detail in that world was a lot more than what people expected for something that, ARPG, you're not looking at things as far as for details, and the team went that extra mile. So if Exile did something like that with a remake of Fallout 1 and 2, I think that would solidify a lot of people, at least trying the earlier versions, instead of fighting over New Vegas and Fallout 3 and stuff like that. They could at least see the origins and fall in love with that aspect of it all over again. But yeah, Xbox as a publisher, RPG Central. So Western RPG Central. I'll leave it at that.
You know what's interesting? Hargeet Chani drops a very generous $2 super chat. He says, for RPGs, Xbox also owns Blizzard, Diablo, and World of Warcraft. Wow. I mean,
true.
I totally forgot about that. Honestly, I'm so like focused on, well, again, not that they're not console centric, because of course Diablo's on console, but WoW, really doesn't mean anything to me, but it does mean for millions of people. So shame on me as a host for not remembering Blizzard. But listen, we got to get into the individual games. But before we do, folks, okay, so what is going on with the screens is there is a new update that came the way of StreamYards. And unfortunately, I can't make the change right now. But moving forward, they recommend these two different streams. One is supposed to be for phones. One is supposed to be for YouTube. I'm never picking the phones again. They automatically picked it for me. I know how to unpick it. So tomorrow and all the streams moving forward will be exactly how they always were. This was an update that literally they dropped into my lap as soon as I turned on my PC, and I got stuck with it. So just for, again, the TLDR, folks, if you go to YouTube and you see that there are two streams, the top one is the one for phones, which I don't know why they would do that. The bottom one is the regular YouTube one. So if you pick that one, you can see our heads. If you pick the top one and you're watching on, let's say, your laptop or something, it's going to look weird. I don't even know what they call it. All I know is that we'll have it all worked out tomorrow. I've already written to the company, please disable this new feature. It's freaking terrible. They made a bunch of changes, and unfortunately, I got stuck with it. But again, if you go to YouTube, and that's where you're going to watch this from, pick the second one, the one on the bottom. The top one is for the phone view. The one on the bottom of it is the regular YouTube one. I hate that I actually have to tell people to do that, but it just is what it is. But gentlemen, chat. You know what? We actually have a super chat here, so let me just get to that. We had that dropped first. Marvelous Marvin has been very generous the last couple of days. So Marvin, thank you so much for another very generous $5 super chat. It says Xbox Series X and Xbox Magnus will forever rule. Yeah, I got news for you. You know, I keep seeing a lot of people who are claiming that power doesn't really matter because no one's going to buy it. And again, folks, this is what we all talked about, right? We always said that no matter what Xbox does, the goalpost is going to be moved. Like I did a video over the weekend where I said that Xbox is holding all the cards for next generation, and I really think that they are. I mean, I don't think I'm being facetious. We talked about it on Friday, and that's where the video, came from. If they have the power, they have the power in the next generation consoles. Yes, they're going to be expensive, but if they have the power, that's considered a card, right? Do they still have the best service in gaming? Yes. Did the $10 increase suck? 100%. But if you, again, I'm using me as putting myself on the stand here, folks. If you're a gamer like me who plays all of the first party games that come out because I like their style of games, then $30 a month is worth its weight in gold. Now, I, as a good consumer, have not paid full boat for Game Pass to this day. And you know what? I talked about it on Friday night stream with my brother and my friends. I'm paid up until 2030. I have 2 years sitting in my sock drawer just waiting to be used. That's how many codes I have. Because I think I paid 17 and change per 3 months. Right? That's still a little bit more than half of what they're charging you, but I'm not paying that full boat, and you shouldn't either. Go to Loaded, go to Aniba, go to all of these sites that are legit and get your codes if you want to do that. So that's card number 2. So if they have the power, they have the best service. I mean, we just started the whole stream about Xbox Game Studios. Now, maybe not every game is going to be for every gamer, but are we going to deny the fact that they released 12 games this year once Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is out? Somehow that's being overlooked because they're not all 90 meta bangers? Like, so if they have the games, they have the service, and they have the power, what's left? What's left for Sony? What's left for Nintendo? So I think that they do have all the cards going into next generation. And I don't think there's even a freaking argument for that, to be honest with you. But then again, I'm an Xbox, so that's fine. You know, if you don't trust my opinion, well, I'm not asking you to. Make your own. But gentlemen, chat, we got to get into this story. Now, this comes the way of VGC. Now, look, you've heard me talk about Andy Robinson and a lot of their writers. I'm a fan of Video Game Chronicles. I've met Andy a couple of times. Gentleman of a man. He allowed his emotions to get away from him in something that happened early in or late last month, where he went, back and forth to the community. That's not really his demeanor. I don't know what set him off. He was having a bad day, and I don't know him like that. Like, I don't call him up and say, "Hey, let's have drinks." Like, I don't know him like that. But I've seen him. He's talked to me. I've talked to him, and I usually and have been for years getting some of my news from VGC.com. Well, the story that we were going to go with here, and again, folks, this is going to be a very heavy RPG type of podcast because there's a lot of news when it comes to Xbox RPGs. And the first one we're going to get into is the Elder Scrolls 6 Crispy Bomb. And according to the story, this was written today, and it was written by Jordan Midler. And it says 7 years after it was announced, the Elder Scrolls 6 is still a long way off, according to Todd Howard. Now, Todd Howard, of course, is running Bethesda. And, well, if there's anyone that knows anything about this game, it would be Todd Howard. He puts his hands and everything that he is as a creator into these games. We know the story behind Starfield and how that's a game that took decades to finally come out. And listen, I'm not slandering Starfield. I put 5 days into that game and I loved every second of it. Yes, I'm enjoying the Outer Worlds a little bit more, but that doesn't take anything away from how awesome Starfield was and is. I'm looking forward to whatever they do with the DLC, even though their first DLC got panned. A lot of people didn't like it. I quite enjoyed it, to be honest with you. But I'm looking forward to a more open experience for the next one. And that's probably what held up this, whatever it's going to be, whether it's the Starborn DLC or something totally new. A lot of people didn't like that closed one planet thing that they had going on. We'll see what happens. But Crispy, you know, The Elder Scrolls 6 was a game that was rumored to be launching with the new Xbox, which is scheduled. Again, this is all rumors, folks. So take it with a grain of salt in 2027. Whether or not that happens, well, we have to wait and see. But according to this report, it may not arrive until 2028. So I want to bring up Okami_13, and he's the one that shared this Video Games Chronicles article, and he goes on to say a Fallout 3 remaster is in the works at Bethesda, according to VGC. Goes on to say Todd Howard also said that the Elder Scrolls 6 is still, like we just said a minute ago, a long way off after it's being announced in 2018. So again, we don't really know for sure if this is going to be something that happens in 2027 or something in 2028. But speaking to GQ, Howard said the game is still a long ways off, adding that I'm preaching patience. I don't want fans to feel anxious. Howard also noted that he doesn't like announcing release dates for games, then having players wait a long time for that game to arrive. So I think that, you know, this is one of those situations where maybe it was a too early of an announcement for the Elder Scrolls 6. Now, we all kind of knew what's going to happen, and I think that Bethesda finds themselves in a bit of a pickle, right? Because they got Starfield out the gate, and I'm going to be honest with you folks, it's probably one of their most polished games to ever release. Like, I know that there's always been the talk about Bugthesda. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get all of that, right? But Starfield ran pretty good. Now, yes, some people did have some issues. I specifically did not. But why I say Bethesda finds themselves in a bit of a pickle is because they have 3 monster-sized IPs in Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, and now Starfield. And they have to find a way to walk a fine line. And look, I've already had this conversation with you folks, so I'm going to just bring it up again, just, you know, for context. My concern as a gamer is, yes, when Fallout 3 remake, remaster, whatever you want to call releases, and it's in the same quality or vein as Oblivion, I'm going to be all up in that because I love Fallout 3 is one of my favorite in series. Now, well, it's my favorite Bethesda-made Fallout. My complaint or my concern is I don't want to be 60 playing Fallout 5. Like, I just don't, man. Like, I don't think that it's cool to have to wait that long. And to exacerbate the situation, Crispy, they have a series that came out and did gangbuster numbers. And it did so well, Crispy, that people went back, even in the UK, we heard Jamie Rand talk about it. Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 were number 1 and number 2 that month because everybody wanted to play Fallout. So I don't want to say it's narrow, you know, looking or seeing, but they kind of knew that they had a hit. And the fact they didn't have a game like Fallout 3 probably should have released. Fallout 3 Remake probably should have released alongside the TV series because it would have been a gangbuster seller. Right now, Oblivion is selling like hotcakes. I think the last time I checked, it was over 9 million sold. That's a lot for a remake, man. That's just crazy. But I guarantee you that if you would have had the Fallout remake ready to rock and roll, you'd have been up there with that as well. And you could have released it on Switch, Switch 2, could have released it on PlayStation, PlayStation 5 Pro, Series X, Series S, PC. Everyone would have bought it because everyone would have been hyped for the TV show. Well, season 2 is around the corner. Next month, season 2 is happening. They also have their Burning Springs DLC coming for Fallout 76. Even though I'm not that interested, I played it. It's awesome. Graphics are great. You get to meet the ghoul. It's a prequel to that character from the show. Awesome. I don't really like MMOs. I'm not paying the monthly thing to have my own singular world. I'm not about that life. So I really want a Fallout. And if Fallout 3 happens to launch closer to the show, that's smart. And I think maybe that's what's going to happen, because that would be the best way to get people to buy this game. Even though it's going to look amazing and run amazing, people are going to be hyped for it. But, again, I don't know. I mean, again, Crispy, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I do want to read one more excerpt from here before I hand you over the microphone. And again, this is a quote from Todd Howard, head of Bethesda. He says, I like to just announce stuff and release it. My perfect version, and this is coming again from Todd Howard, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, is that it's going to be a while, and then one day the game just appears. I mean, wow, that's kind of a gray area. So it's not going to be out for a while. Some people are suggesting 2028. I think it could be closer to 2027, but I'm speculating. That's just me right here. I mean, if you think about it, being able to say that new hardware in 27 is going to be the most powerful hardware between the Switch and the PS5, which is going to be the 5 and the Pro, so going to be around. I don't know if Sony gets their console out for 27 or 28. There's rumors that they won't, release until 28. We will see. It's just a rumor. But I think it'd be really critical, in my opinion, to have the Elder Scrolls 6 launch with the next Xbox in 27, because it will ultimately be the best place to play. And of course, you include PC, but it's going to be a big deal, because if they can line up the release with the console launch, that's a pretty big launch title, and people might line up to buy the new console because it's going to be more powerful. It's also going to be more expensive, but we don't know how expensive. Let's get your thoughts on what is going on at Bethesda.
I don't know if anybody knows. I mean, long way off. What does that mean? It's kind of funny. Like, just think about it. Like, oh, it's a long way off. But I could just shadow drop it or shadow drop an announcement whenever. It's like, Todd, you're talking out both sides of your mouth, bro. Like, I'm not going to lie here. Like, you could interpret long way off as 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, if we're talking like, we're getting into GTA territory over here, as far as like distance in time of when they develop and when it's going to come out. You know what I mean? So we're like, maybe Bethesda was like, hey, they're Rockstar, hold my beer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I think, there's been more of a pivot towards Fallout. Obviously, the new season, I mean, on Fallout Day, really would have been nice to see a remaster of either New Vegas or 3, whichever one you want to pick. That said, you get like a upgrade to Fallout 4, and it's like, okay, like I'm still playing it, so sure, but some people, after the big hype might be like done with it for a while. They want to, they go back to 3 and they're like, oh, that doesn't, it's not hitting the same way, that when I was young, you know what I mean? When you were younger, like it's one of those things. Like, so I think they might have moved people to focus on whatever they're really doing. Like, obviously we think the Fallout 3 remaster is a thing, but could they be thinking about doing like also a New Vegas as well and try to get that out at some point within this period of time, I would say, because you would think that this season that's upcoming is going to be successful. So are they already renewed for a third season or, whatnot? Can they hit that window with any game of the next season? The problem is if that season, doesn't do well, you're not going to have the same hype. So they're riding a fine line right now. And like I said, I think, they take more of the team, maybe some of the team that's working on Elder Scrolls 6, maybe moved them over to whatever they're doing with Fallout. And now Todd's playing word games with us. I mean, that's Sorry, Todd, if you're listening, but seriously, dude, like you're playing word games with us. And you know what? All it does for, any Fallout or Elder Scrolls fan, it creates hype, it creates conversation again. So, we'll see next year. I mean, next year is pretty stacked. So I don't know how much they would even want to announce. 2027, the way it's looking, like some of these games that we've already seen have to go to another year or maybe released earlier and maybe something else moves. There's a lot of games coming out within a 2 to 3 year span. Do you kind of hold off and allow them to have a great quality Elder Scrolls 6 come out and also get some Fallout stuff out there? They have a lot of options. I'm surprised they haven't started hiring yet, because I think, if anything, having more people work on Fallout, and I'm talking like a big number, not like their normal hires. It would be mindful to do so and really just get it out there. And, you have the formula with Oblivion. So, like, work on it whatever way you're going to work on it. But if you can bring the teams together, and you don't know, like, they could be using some of the other other teams, other developers, and maybe some people from Obsidian are heading over there to help out. You don't know. And they've really opened that door much more now, and really said that they're working and collaborating together. So I mean, I'm just hoping within the next 2 years, like they do. I'm more of a Fallout fan, so I want Fallout, but who knows what they mean by a long way off for Elder Scrolls. It's a very shady.
You know what? It's a gray area. I don't really like that, Todd Howard. I want some definitive damn answers. I'm sorry. Being an entitled gamer. Look, Fuzzy, let's bring you in. You're a fan of RPGs. You're a fan of Bethesda as well. There's a lot to unpack here. The interview, it's not cryptic. He's trying to be, I think, forthcoming. I really think he's trying to say it without actually saying it. And look, it's pretty crazy that their problem is they have too many good RPGs. Like, honestly, when you just kind of sit back and it's hilarious. Like, well, goddamn it, Bethesda, pick one and go. You have too many good ones. Starfield is Todd's baby. Like, we know that. We know that he obviously is he loves Fallout. He loves the Elder Scrolls. But if you just listen to the way he talks about Starfield, I mean, that's like your childhood dreams coming true. I mean, he's talked about it when he was very young. He pitched this, and it was so bombastic that there was no way they were going to be able to do it. And he waited a decade, ladies and gentlemen. That's 10 years if you don't know what a decade is. Sorry, I had to be descriptive, but that's a long-ass time to wait to do something that you believe in your heart is going to be a hit. And Starfield is a phenomenal IP, right? Fallout is a phenomenal IP. And Elder Scrolls, well, there's not much to say. It's a phenomenal RPG. This is a big problem. And I think Crispy actually hit it on the head. We haven't heard, normally when they start like looking for talent, the internet sleuths find out, and we haven't heard about a big hiring. But that is a pretty big studio. I don't actually know how large the studio, because do they have 1,000 people? Do they have 2,000 people? I can go and check when you're trying to break it down. So I'll try and get that information. But again, I'm a greedy gamer, and I love Fallout, and I would love a new Fallout. Now, if you don't want to give me a new Fallout, well, there are ways that we can sit back and enjoy older Fallouts that look like new Fallouts. And the way we can do that are two ways. One is the rumored Fallout 3 remake / remaster, whatever you want to call it. That's fine. I will play that. I will enjoy it. I think I got every achievement but like 2 or 3 in Fallout 3, even through the DLCs. The DLCs were freaking awesome, right? There's another way though. You can, and maybe this is happening because of the, and success usually breeds, we got to do more of this. So the success of Oblivion sets up Fallout 3 to be successful, because if the same team is doing it, we're in for a treat. Fallout 3 is great, but then it shouldn't stop there, because if you don't have a Fallout coming out, or at least a new Fallout by Bethesda, until like 2032 or something like that, then you should at least do a New Vegas remake remaster. And everyone is asking for that. And everybody in this chat would line up to buy it. Let's get your thoughts on what's going on with Bethesda, man.
Yeah, it's one heck of a problem to have as a studio when you have so many IPs that are beloved, and people are anxiously waiting the next iteration of that. Like I'm looking forward to what a Starfield 2 could behold, but they have a long way to go as far as other updates, DLCs, expansions, and things like that we'll see for quite some time. So that should pretty much take care of us for a good bit. And at worst, they'll wind up doing maybe an up-res, like 4K or 8K update for when the next gen console comes out. And I'm pretty sure people will fall in love with that game all over again. Smart delivery, so you don't have to pay $10 upgrade or anything like that type of deal. But I think one of the big things, since they kind of got caught off guard with the Fallout show doing as well as it did, I don't think that they originally worried about spooling up or ramping up for a Fallout 5 as soon as they probably have to now. I'm pretty sure there have been some meetings where it's like, we could actually use a Fallout 5 before Elder Scrolls 6. I don't know how serious those conversations are, but I'm pretty sure there have been times on how fast we can get another Fallout that we can sell to consumers that might be new to the series, that after the TV series kind of got them hooked on the game or the characters, where we can capitalize on that. So I would not be surprised if Obsidian, which we know they have 3 teams, we know that they're working on they're going to continue to work on Grounded 2, which I think is a smaller team, just bigger than what they had for Grounded itself. We know that they're working on an Avowed 2, another team that was a little bit smaller than their normal rotation, but they are probably ramping up a bit. And considering they hired the creative director back from Fallout New Vegas, I wouldn't be surprised if they're working on something in the Fallout universe within that studio itself. Now, whether it's helping Bethesda with a Fallout 5, or if it's remastering Fallout New Vegas, or making a new location instead of Fallout New Vegas 2, because the guy said, I'm not working on a Fallout New Vegas 2, which could be accurate. It could be that it's, New York or new somewhere else instead of a 2 for New Vegas kind of thing. But I do think that, as we've seen with Xbox Studios, they've been working together on things like the UE5 engine. They've been working together on like mocap and stuff like that, and honing their skills across all of their development studios. So I would not be surprised if smaller projects, or at least something in the Fallout universe, is handed off to like inXile and Obsidian, or maybe they're collaborating with the main Fallout team that's a little bit on the smaller side right now, but ramping up as they're getting Elder Scrolls 6 across the finish line. But yeah, I think Todd has come to realize that more than likely, and I don't want to predict anything, but I would assume at this point he's probably happy with the way things are going within Bethesda as far as all of their IPs being beloved, having Elder Scrolls 6, pretty much being the main project right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if he retires after that, or at least retires from the game development only side of things and leans more into what he's doing, kind of like where he's working not only with the games, but also with the IP itself in other formats, whether it's movies or TV series and such. because I would love to see a Starfield series at some point. I would love to see, something for Elder Scrolls as well. So if he takes a more, I guess, bird's eye view type of perspective where he's, doing the transmedia between TV and gaming, I could see him moving more into that, and then, solidifying a dedicated Elder Scrolls team, a dedicated Fallout team, a dedicated Starfield team that he can, check in on and make sure that they stick to his guidelines on those IPs kind of thing, all the while working with other, directors and producers for whatever TV series either Amazon or Netflix might have going on and stuff. But I would not be surprised if there's more Xbox first party studios working together. Like I said, I'm totally under the understanding that Obsidian has something in the Fallout universe in the works. Would not be surprised if In Exile gets tapped on the shoulder to help out, or like I said earlier about doing maybe a remaster for 1 and 2, because that's another game that, it may not quench the thirst for everybody that's looking for the next Fallout, but it will definitely help for those that don't necessarily want to play the original version, in like a pixelated, ARPG standpoint. But yeah, they're going to have to figure out something. I would not be surprised if they ramp up in size. So I hope if you found those numbers for the size of the studio, we can kind of keep an eye out to see if they do start, hiring, or if they keep the same size and, like I said, just start working with other Xbox studios and stuff.
All I know is that we open up the show with the thought and theory that right now, Xbox Game Studios is loaded when it comes to RPGs. And mind you, I actually had forgotten that they own Blizzard. I know that's crazy, but again, I'm not the biggest of Blizzard fans. Diablo, it's great. I know you just finished. You're back to playing it. I don't like the change from 3 personally, so that's why me and Miss Spoon never got into it, which is okay. But if you are a fan of it, I know there's a lot of people in the chat that love that game. I actually forgot that they own Blizzard. So they own Blizzard. Blizzard has WoW. Blizzard has Diablo and a bunch of other IPs. You got Obsidian. You got Bethesda, and you got In Exile. I mean, wow! Talk about a freaking absolute powerhouse of RPG makers. And yes, the Xbox has gone third party, and a lot of the OGs like me don't like it, but it is what it is. And you know what? You got to tip your cap, because they did circle the wagons and they do hold the crown for best RPGs. Now, maybe you think Square does it better. We obviously, you had the new studio come out with Expedition 33, which that whole story is just one of the greatest. It can make you smile at any part of the story. How that game came together is so crazy that it shouldn't work, but somehow it is going to win almost every award during the award time. I think it's going to mop up the awards at the game awards this year. I really do. I just think it's going to win every category it's in. And again, just if you want a very entertaining and thought-provoking story, go check out how they found the artists on SoundCloud for the music, or how they found some of the voice actors. It's astonishing, the story of Expedition 33. But again, Bethesda is one of the 4 bigs that Xbox has, and they are doing a lot of work. I don't know how they're going to pull this off. I think Fuzzy and Crispy knocked it out of the park, but we'll see. But we're not done, folks. We're not done. We got to catch up on Super Chats. But before we get to Super Chats and the last story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a big one, we got to talk about the winners that have not contacted me. Now, we gave 10 prizes away on Friday. 4 people have their gift cards, and they probably spent them already. Now, Stage on X is in the chat, and I just saw your message on Xbox Live. So as soon as the show is done, I'll get you your $25 gift card, and I'll send it to you via Xbox Live. So that's Stage on X. So I'm going to put a check mark next to your name, because that's one person that we got in touch with. But there are still 5 others, ladies and gentlemen. So 127 Yankees. Well, I don't know who they are. And maybe they're a different name because of, YouTube and their change. But these are the 5 winners that I need to get in touch with. And again, folks, I will continue to read these names out aloud until we get everyone their $25 gift cards. 127 Yankees. Lord Chaos, Chief Nagel, and 2 more, Rectangle and Sin in the chat. Now, Sin, I see you here every day. You got to be here. But, okay, so shout out to Powerboss09. He says, okay, so Lord Chaos, I will get to you as well, brother. I will find it. I will send you your $25 gift card. So that is 2. Lord Chaos, thank you so much for the message. Powerboss09 says, Double Barrel Gaming, Bethesda has 2,300 employees. So that is a lot of humans. So maybe they have some, again, I don't know about development, folks. I couldn't tell you, C+ or C++. I forget about it. If the world was going to end and I needed to do C++, it's over, folks. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to try. But yeah, so 2,300 people. Thanks so much for the info, brother. Super appreciate that. Dizzy Delta, listen, brother, if I don't get in touch with, if some people don't get in touch, and everyone that I talked about is usually here, I'll re-roll them. But listen, Crispy, let me get into super chats, and then we will get into the big topic of the show. And this has to do with Obsidian, ladies and gentlemen. They are apparently working on Avowed 2. They are currently working on some DLC for the Outer Worlds 2. But what they're not working on is the Outer Worlds 3. So that has a lot of people up in arms. But I'm going to tell you why I don't think you should get excited, folks. So, Marvelous Marvin drops a very generous $2 super chat. It says, excellent live streams and videos. Brother, thank you so much for the very kind words and the additional generosity. Also, Nino Vistic, our generous friend, all the way from Hawaii, has gifted 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. Brother, that is very kind of you. Thank you so much for the generosity, as he's done so many times before. So if you did, in fact, get a sub from that man, please thank him in the chat. I would be greatly appreciative of that, and I'm sure he would as well. Crispy Bomb, look, I think it's easy to say that my favorite game of the year was Avowed. And I loved every freaking second of that game, right? There was not anything about the game that I did not like. And I thought it was my game of the year 2025. Well, I'm sorry to say, Avowed, you have been boxed out, because apparently the Outer Worlds 2 has stolen my soul. And I've even said publicly, and I know that the tomatoes have come for me, that I like the Outer Worlds 2 better than Bethesda's Starfield. Sorry, Todd. Please do not shun me. I'm just saying how I feel. But here's the thing, Crispy. Me personally, I have 5 days, 5 hours in this game. And I probably am not going to beat it for another 10 to 15 hours, maybe a little bit more. I'm at the cusp of having completed every one of my companion missions. I have 1 left to do, and I'm trying to do something. Again, no spoilers, folks. I have to do something to get 2 sides to work together, and it's very difficult. So I'm walking a razor's edge of madness, trying to get everything done, and that's what's taking me so long, and I'm quite frankly enjoying it. I just found a bunch of weapons. I found their version of the BFG. It's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous that if you shoot this thing indoors, everything is dead. I haven't died from it, but anything in front of the gun, you're dead. It's insane. Again, you've seen the videos. There's a shrink ray. You can shrink somebody down to a size of a ant, and how you kill them is stepping on them. It's freaking hilarious, because you may even make a crunch. Like, it's gross, but fun and laughable all at the same time. I saw a lot of people like, well, yeah, the Outer Worlds is jokey. Yeah, it is. it's very jokey. It's not, there's some serious things there. There's some serious choices. If you make some bad choices, you will be panned by your crew. That hasn't happened to me. Actually saw Nico Muller actually pick the choice where he became an evil prick, which I couldn't believe. That's not Nico. Nico, what are you doing? But he became evil. Okay, you can do that. Oh, okay, here we go. 127 Yankees. Yeah, I know you're talking about fix the video. There are two choices. The bottom choice is the one that you have to pick, not the top one. This won't be a problem tomorrow or any of the streams. I've already written, and I'm going to see if I can get that taken out. I'm not going to pick the choice. It's a portrait and like a phone choice. They kind of stuck me today, which I didn't know this was going to happen. So we'll have it all squared away tomorrow. But Crispy Bomb, getting back to the topic at hand. Obsidian is doing a bunch of things right now. Now, they already released 3 games this year, which is insane. Like, I always harken back to Obsidian on the same level of carrying Xbox the same way that I believe for years Insomniac has carried PlayStation. Insomniac is my favorite PlayStation studio. It's not even a question. I love their platformers and Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man. Well, what can you say? I freaking love every one of them. They can really do no wrong. So, of course, with Wolverine around the corner, I'm very excited. But going back to Obsidian, they already released 3 games this year, which is insane. But what we have, and this is, again, I'm going to read it verbatim from, this comes the way of Chris Avellone. So Obsidian Entertainment reportedly has plans, Crispy, for a third Outer Worlds games, but is developing Avowed 2 and is ready to release DLC for the Outer Worlds 2. So Avowed 2 is happening. Now, this is based on statements from former Obsidian developer Chris Avellone, who is also indicated that the studio is dedicating its resources to other titles like Avowed. And they have, this is where it gets very interesting, Crispy. I'm going to read verbatim from the report. Avowed 2 is in development. Reports suggest that Avowed 2 is actively being worked on by the studio, according to Instant Gaming News. And this comes the way of the Gamer and Notebook Check. Now, the Outer Worlds 3, currently, there are no plans for. While the Outer Worlds 2 will receive DLC, there are currently no plans to develop a third installment in the series, according to the report. Obsidian is focusing on other IPs. The studio is splitting its team into multiple projects and is focusing more on its original fantasy IP, Avowed, rather than continuing the Outer Worlds series at this time. And that comes the way of a report from PureXbox.com. And of course, I will include all of this in the show notes. Now, I know I saw some people, the trolls immediately come for, it didn't sell well, so I guess that studio is gone. They put out 3 games this year. Like, I mean, I know that some people really love being a troll and a POS, but can we say, how many studios do you know, Crispy, Fuzzy, or Chat, that put out 3 RPGs in 1 year? Because I can't remember any, to be honest with you. So they're working on the Avowed 2, which, of course, Avowed 1 came out earlier this year and is a freaking phenomenal RPG. And you're not getting me off this hill. The Outer Worlds 2, well, I've already said all what I can say about it. I still have the screen up, as you can see. I'm not taking it down anytime soon. I love the game. Grounded 2, not for me, but a lot of people really enjoyed it. They did a lot of really big work from Avowed, from the first one to the second one. A lot of people really enjoying Grounded 2. Is it going to win any awards? I don't know, to be honest with you. But it came out. It's still in preview, and people really enjoyed it. All 3 games were reviewed very well. Are they in the 90s? No. But does everything have to be a 90 meta? I don't think so for me to enjoy or love the game. So when you hear that they don't have any plans for the Outer Worlds 3, I mean, okay, you they're working on multiple projects. Maybe the Outer Worlds 3 comes out years from now after they've released 3 or 4 DLCs for the Outer Worlds 2, which I think they did 3, if I'm not mistaken, for the Outer Worlds 1. So I would imagine they're going to at least match that. But here is my thought process. The original writer for Fallout New Vegas came back. You heard Fuzzy talk about this. And he came out and said that they're not doing Fallout New Vegas 2. I think Fuzzy might be onto something here, because maybe it's not Fallout New Vegas 2. Maybe it's Fallout Utah. Maybe it's Fallout LA or New York or Fallout Boston or something like that. I actually think that they could have been tasked to make a Fallout game, because you got to remember, I think it was last year, and I don't have the report in front of me, but the head of the studio for Obsidian said they would love to return to Fallout. Why not make that happen? Let's talk about what they're working on, because again, Avowed 2 is going to be dope. I have no doubt about it, because the first one was amazing. We're going to get some DLC. Thank goodness. There's going to be some DLC for the Outer Worlds 2, which I am absolutely loving. And even though the Outer Worlds 3 is not in the cards, something else could be, and that could be a new Fallout game. Let's get your thoughts, brother.
Yeah, that would be something. I mean, if you really think about it, I said a long time ago, what if they do Fallout New California Republic? Because, you know, NCR, you met the NCR in New Vegas.
Oh, dude, that's dope.
You know what I mean? The TV show gives you like the inklings of what's going on there and what has happened, but you could really jump in at certain points in the timeline. You know, so it could be obviously they'd have to well think it out at this point, like trying to merge all of these different things together. But it definitely, you know, it doesn't, just because they didn't say New Vegas 2 doesn't mean that it couldn't have something, you know, to do with New Vegas. So, I mean, obviously we would love that. I mean, it's just a hypothetical. So, you know, that said, like, that's where you got to think, like, why wouldn't they do an Outer Worlds 3? You know, like, and then it's like, oh, well, why would they do 2, you know, like similar RPGs at the same time? So it's like, what is that team, you know, because you're not going to need that whole team to do DLCs. You know, what are they kind of working on in the background? So, you know, that's definitely intriguing. Avowed 2, I mean, they have so much that like they can improve and build on, you know, just like they did with Outer Worlds 2. Like what I've played so far is, I mean, it just feels different, but feels, you know, like just a more concrete game, especially with the gunplay. The gunplay is much better. So, you know, I think Obsidian's good at just getting games out, and you know, like everybody finds bugs, but for the most part, they're pretty well polished. And then it seems like they're getting into this cadence of just, okay, some games we can build upon, we can make it better, we can make it, you know, have a grander scale or whatever they really are choosing. And then sometimes you got to go on to something else. And I think, you know, maybe, you know, are we going to see another Grounded at some point? You know, obviously this one's in its preview process, but you can only build on that world, I think, so much. Now you can, you know, ride the bugs and all these things. So I think they look for a challenge, and like once they get to a certain point where they say this is what we, you know, with the funding and everything else and the timelines and all this and the ability to, you know, if we feel we need to take longer, we can, the way it is now and working under Xbox, they have this opportunity to continue to build or build maybe a new IP. I mean, let's not act like they couldn't do that as well. So I'm just, once again, it's just absurd. 3 games, 1 year from one studio. we could in 3 years see Avowed 2 in my eyes. So, I mean, Obsidian is just a juggernaut. They're the best studio that Microsoft Xbox has ever bought. And I think they have this cadence right now, this ramp up of, being able to do all these things. They've proven the concept to the big wigs, as we'd say, and clearly they think that they are running that studio perfectly, and they're going to get a lot of opportunities to do, hopefully, a Fallout or a new IP with the rest of those teams as time goes on.
Great points all around, brother. And I think you're onto something. Absolutely great hot takes for sure. Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get your thoughts on this, brother, because this is a big topic. Again, folks, I'm sorry that the entire show was based around RPGs, but there's been a lot of news, especially from RPGs that are made by Xbox Game Studios. And I want to keep it focused and tight here. Obsidian has a lot going on. The fact that they are already working on Avowed 2 has me very excited because I absolutely adored that game. The fact that we have DLC happening for the Outer Worlds 2, because the Outer Worlds 1, again, folks, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that it had 3 different DLCs. So if they match that, I mean, this game is going to be awesome. And it's going to continue on after, which I'm very excited for. The Outer Worlds 3 is, and I would imagine, way off. I'm sure that they're going to wait to see how the game does itself, how many people have played it, how many people have purchased it, how well the DLCs go, how many people buy those. That all makes sense. But instead of jumping right back into the Outer Worlds 3, there could be a third project, and that third project could, in fact, actually be a Fallout. Because again, just going right back to a statement from the head of the studio, last year they said specifically, we would absolutely love to get back into Fallout. So obviously they put out Avowed, they put out Grounded 2, they put out the Outer Worlds 2. They're going to be doing Outer Worlds 2 DLC. They're going to be doing the Avowed 2. And I think, it's just me spitballing here, and I think Crispy Bomb is onto something here. They may actually be working on a new Fallout game to kind of take the pressure off Todd Howard and Bethesda. Let's get your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I kind of remember, like, from the time that they hired back the guy from, Fallout New Vegas 2 to the point of that statement where you were saying he would love to do another Fallout. I assumed that's something that's on the table. And sure, I'm pretty sure Phil is like, or even Sarah is like, we don't want to have, fighting between the teams, although I guess Matt Booty would be the one have to handle a dispute between Todd and any other teams that want to touch the IPs and stuff. But I think that's on their to-do list right now, just for the fact that everybody at Xbox knows that Fallout is a priority at this point. You need to have something fairly close to probably not this season, but the following season, when that wraps up, have something to at least show for it other than DLC that goes into, something along the lines like for Fallout 76, which they've already done. So whether that's, go ahead and get that remaster out there, and then maybe a year or two later, provided that they still have, a couple of more seasons to go, have the actual game that, either represents that storyline or can be a completely separate storyline in the Fallout universe. I could totally see them working on something to that effect. But considering how talented Obsidian is right now, we know the Avowed 2 is the other project, and with Grounded 2 being a slightly smaller but another project in the works, I still think that they might have something else before they get to an Outer Worlds 3. And it's not that, from my understanding, whenever a team finishes or wraps a game, if there is to be any intent, even if it's not immediate, there is some, like, I guess, sketch up as far as what the idea might be for Outer Worlds 3. So they may have already at least visited that and have it shelved while they, have a team or smaller part of the team focus on the DLCs that will kind of wrap up whatever else they want to have to this primary story. But I think they'll wind up having something for Outer Worlds 3 after potentially another project, which I'm kind of hopeful, even though I'm not the biggest high fantasy fan as far as RPGs are concerned, but there was an interesting title that they were pitching for Xbox at the launch of the Xbox One called Stormland. I know a lot of people may not have heard of it. There's some articles about it, so if you can, when you get a chance, look it up, about Stormland from Obsidian. Think of like an MMO, high fantasy, where you can have 100 active players in that universe. And I guess one of the key features that they wanted to have was like a public event where, let's say there's a dragon attacking the castle. Everybody in that world or that instance could run to that event and attack the dragon. And it would show like if you got slayed by the dragon, then it would have like a little bit of your story and lore of the character that was lost based on the dragon, either biting your head off or smacking you off the side of the cliff with its tail or something. But if you wound up being one of those that slays the dragon, it would have that added to your lore for your character. So everybody that participated would get kind of like their own story or their presence in the story with pictures and shareable items and loot and stuff like that. So it's an interesting concept. There's a lot more grounded stuff to it, but that was something that they were hoping that they could have for the launch of Xbox One. Now, I think Xbox shot it down in the past either because of hardware constraints or just timing, because it would have been something that probably wouldn't have launched until the end of Xbox One generation. But all in all, that's still something that was like a proof of concept that they've, at least worked up some working aspects of it that I would not be opposed to seeing them make that into a full game. But Obsidian's a great studio, much like Boom has compared them to Insomniac, where they've been in some instances, but Insomniac in particular, they've been carrying PlayStation this past generation and a half, I guess you could say, with releasing the most titles of their first party studios. And Obsidian is kind of doing the same thing. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you got your Playground Games, you got your 343 now Halo Studios that released a lot of things, and same thing with Coalition. But like Obsidian is able to, I guess, churn out quality products in a shorter period of time. Not saying that the others can't do the same, but it seems like Playground Games is slow just a smidge, but I think it was from outside forces making them slow down their iterations of Forza Horizon, just to kind of let those games live longer and let the license get its full breadth of space before you make the new title. And then with Coalition, it seems like they've been the main focus as far as being the gurus of Unreal Engine 5 while working on their own projects, also working on side projects to I guess sharpen their craft with it, even though I hear those projects have been shelved for now, but they've been helping out a lot of the other teams get caught up or up to speed on UE5. So they've been slowed down to some extent by being kind of like, I wouldn't say the tutors, but they kind of are in some extent with other Xbox studios. But all in all, Obsidian's a great studio. I'm sure that they'll be able to churn out a few more projects here in the coming years, because I think they had a goal of having, 7 games in 5 years, or 5 games in 7 years, or something along those lines. And the original Outer Worlds was not included in that scope. And I don't know if Pentiment was part of that number as well. But yeah, they're definitely going to be a studio to keep an eye on. And I would not be opposed to them, sneaking in a new IP before they tackle Outer Worlds 3. I mean, it just dropped. We got plenty of time for DLC. Like, yeah. I only have maybe about between 19 to 20 hours in.
Fraud.
Well, no, because I had to restart because I originally picked up the compulsive liar negative trait, and it started making me into an a-hole. So I was like, I don't want to do that, because it's like,
you have no idea. I got it's not a bug, folks. You know what? please continue. I'll tell my horrible story with my second playthrough. Go ahead.
No, but there's like parts of your crew and stuff that you're kind of helping them along with their side missions and stuff like that. But by picking up the compulsive liar one, now you're being an a-hole to them. It's like, yeah, I got better things to do. I'll talk to you later, and then you like never talk to them or you avoid them, kind of thing. So I didn't want to be like that as far as for how I played through it. Now it helps with some of your conversations with random characters, convincing them to break the law or do other things that they're not supposed to do. But I don't want to be the a-hole to the people on my crew, because I have a feeling they might wind up having to save my life again. So I don't want them to be like, screw that guy, he was an a-hole. Yeah, I had to start over or at least start from a previous save. So I've been doing a lot of saves, which RPGs, saves coming, I'm guilty of it. So it is what it is.
That's a great point. So I hope this doesn't happen to anybody else. It's my second playthrough, so it's not a problem. It's fine. But I picked something, and I don't know what I picked. I did the cardinal sin of RPGs, and because I was in a conversation, I knew what was happening. I kind of pressed the button real quick, and something popped up on the screen. And I just pressed it, and I accepted it. I forgot what they're called. They're not traits. They're perks and they're flaws. That's what they're flaws. Okay. So whatever flaw I picked up, I don't know. Here's the problem. Before I picked up this thing, you could say, no, that flaw that's gonna F me up. I don't like it. And you could say no. No. I have about 17 flaws because I can't say no. It's blocked out. So I have to say yes to every flaw. I got one last night, kleptomaniac. I got one. Listen, I have like 17 of them. It's to the point where it's ridiculous. Like I'm afraid I can't. Okay, this is one. I can't break down any of the items to make things, but I still can get the thing. I can still find the parts and make things. I just can't break anything down. But if I sell them, I get 100% profit. It's crazy. It's these flaws make the game so much fun. And now I'm at a point where I think I'm up to like 17 of them. It's crazy. Like it's just crazy. So don't pick the one. There are 2 points of contention here, folks. One, don't press the X button to go through things. Don't do that. And secondly, be careful of the traits you pick because you can't get freaking rid of them. And now I'm stuck with 17 of them. It's crazy. But ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you to everyone that's here. We have a super chat from Look at Me. The Broke Boy says, oh, dude, I forgot about this. Obsidian also just dropped the turn-based beta from Pillars of Eternity. Holy shit, dude. Okay, now we have to give them the crown now. This is just like Pillars of Eternity, not for me, but they made it like a turn-based RPG. I just read about that. Thanks for the $2 super chat and the reminder. So can we just say that they're probably one of the best studios of 2025? If they don't win Studio of the Year, I don't know who else would take that crown from them. It's ridiculous. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here. So real quick, I got in touch with Stage on X, Lord Chaos. I have to find you. I can't find your message, so message me again. Chief Nagel and Rectangle. All I'm looking for now is 127 Yankees, who I saw in the chat. So you can either email me, go to the About page of the YouTube channel, and you'll find the business email there. Very easy. It's my first and last name. That's the business email. Or you can message me on Xbox Live. We'll get you your $25 code. We're also looking for Sin. Now, Sin, I didn't see in the chat today. Normally he's here. But Sin, if you are listening, brother, hit me up either on the socials on X or Twitter. You can DM me there. I'll get you a code there, or you can message me on Xbox Live, or you can just email me at the work at the business email, and we'll get you your code one way or another. But congratulations to everyone, and a big thank you to everyone who dropped a super chat today. Mrs. Boom and I do greatly appreciate it. And again, all of these super chats, these channel member chats, these gifted subs, they're all going to get tucked away to our $500 giveaway that we're having in December. and it's the 8th annual Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. And again, yes, we're certainly a little bit lower this year than what we did last year. Last year we did over $2,000. I think we did closer to 2,500. We just can't afford it. Everything is shrinking, and again, we can only do what we're given, and we can't tap into the house fund because that's already been exhausted to some extent for some things that happen that were out of our control. So we are giving away at least $500 worth of giveaways, and of course, that is just our way of saying thank you to everyone that continues to support the channel with your views, with your clicks, with your shares, and of course, with your generosity through channel membership and the super chats. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll close up the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.